What's up, guys? My name is Matt, and I'd like to welcome you to my World of Warcraft movie. I haven't made any of these movies in a couple of years now, guys, so chances are this is probably the first one that you're seeing from me, unless you're one of the 173 people that were subscribed to my channel back when I used to make these movies. Now, I used to make movies on YouTube to help beginners in World of Warcraft with dungeons, gold making, and professions, but I haven't messed with that for a couple of years. And so now that I decided to return to World of Warcraft, I wanted to do something fun and do something different. So I decided I would kind of do a movie project of taking a new character, and I started this account with the name Matt here from an old account where I had it saved, and started this new account, and I wanted to kind of record taking a character from the very start, level 1, all the way through to level 50, and just kind of the journey of how that happens and all of the fun things that happen along the way. And I decided to use the medium of screenshots versus movies because it was easier for me to edit. And that's kind of one of the reasons I made the movie too. I needed to practice editing and using the software. And so that was I'm just using the common game screenshots for all of these pictures and then editing on this super old school Windows Movie Maker. So in order to do this project, the purpose of it was kind of a love letter to World of Warcraft. I spent a lot of years playing this game and really enjoyed it. There were some expansions I enjoyed a lot more than others, and I definitely took a lot of breaks throughout my journey in World of Warcraft, but we'll kind of get into my story a little bit after we talk about the movie and how I made it. So in making this movie and deciding to use screenshots, I had to figure out how I could make them look good in photos for you guys here in the movie. And so I tried some caster characters, and that was a fail because all the screenshots were of me halfway through the cast, so that didn't look exciting at all. Then I tried melee characters. That worked better because they were kind of always action shots, but it was difficult to get the spacing if I wanted to be able to back up or zoom in or get a good shot while I was, trying to furiously hit buttons and kill the mobs. So eventually I figured out that I wanted a class that could go close and far away from the mobs and still be able to move, and I found that in the Beast Mastery Hunter. I'm also a pet lover in real life. I have 3 dogs, and actually my pets in the game I named after my real life dogs. So that was the way in which I got started. So I went with the Beast Mastery Hunter, and I tried a whole bunch of different races to make it look good. And what I actually decided to do was to use a human and make the hunter look as much like me in real life as we can. So this guy's got the beard and the gray hair just like me. I'm an old dude now. So in making these screenshots work, I figured out that there was a moment after some practice with any kind of a humanoid mob where you either ran up to it or you attacked it in the first couple of seconds where a chat bubble would appear above the mob, just like you see the chat bubble right there above Captain Garrick's head. And that turned out to be the ideal moment that I would take the screenshot for all of this. And it just made for a great telling of what was going on in the story at the same time. So that's how I decided to shoot most of this. And then I had to figure out, okay, so I was going to do the human Beast Mastery Hunter. Unfortunately for the poor guy, he has to look like me as we go through this movie. But I decided to tell the story starting right off from Exile's Reach. So level 1, how I created the character, getting him off the island and getting him to Borealis to start my journey. Then I had to figure out which expansion I was going to level in that would be the coolest video for this. Now, vanilla was out for me because most of the mobs are small and the same size as you, and the rare creatures, like kind of battling hard creatures, are pretty far apart. So that was out. Burning Crusade rare spawns are super rare, and there was a lot of humanoids, but again, it's just really kind of a big map, and the same thing for Wrath of the Lich King. I didn't care for Cataclysm or Mist of Pandaria, so those were automatically out for me. My favorite 2 expansions in the end were Warlords of Draenor and Legion. And so what I decided to do for shooting kind of cool clips of this was I thought it would be a good story to kind of take myself through the story of Warlords of Draenor, because you're kind of coming through the opening of Warlords of Draenor, you're building your garrison, and you're fighting against Ner'zhul, and there's a really great storyline to that I thought worked well with this. But I also didn't want to miss the artifact weapons portion of Legion. So I worked that in a little bit to the video as well, because I thought those were such cool shots and I really enjoy that part of the game. So you'll see here I'm starting off going through Warlords of Draenor. This is a great shot with the orc come at me, bro. And so I just worked my way through that the whole time. Now, like, again, you're fighting Ner'zhul with Gul'dan in the background, kind of manipulating things, and that was kind of neat. And then I decided what kind of dungeons or leveling content I was going to do. So I was obviously going to do questing. PvP was out because it's messy and super unpredictable. So I decided to do dungeons to break up the kind of common questing storyline. Then I had to figure out which expansion the dungeons to do from. As previously mentioned, it was kind of down to vanilla was out because the boss mobs are small. Wrath would have been okay. I wasn't going to do, again, Cataclysm or Mist because I didn't enjoy those expansions. And then I thought about Legion and Warlords both kind of didn't have the quest in the dungeon, and there was some mechanism. You had to go get the quest for them, and so that didn't work. So it ended up being Burning Crusade for me. I could have done Burning Crusade or Wrath. And I chose BC because I was already fighting orcs in Warlords of Draenor, so I thought it kind of kept the same theme. And BC were also my favorite dungeons in the game as I played through when I was younger. I really love Burning Crusade dungeons. The mobs are huge. All the quests are right in the start of every instance. They're pretty short, and they're just a lot of fun in general. So Burning Crusade was absolutely it for dungeons for me. So after I finished this Warlords of Draenor opening scenario, I started leveling through to do my garrison things while also queued for the Burning Crusade dungeons. So from that point, the movie just kind of progresses through. And now that I've told you kind of why I shot the movie and what I was interested in recording to kind of make this a cool set of pictures to put together, I'll talk to you a little bit about my history in World of Warcraft. I'm sure all of you have played through and had, your own experiences with it. Some expansions you've enjoyed and some that you haven't. So I'd like to talk to that a little bit. So that you guys can kind of get to know me, and I'll tell you what I've thought about World of Warcraft over the years. And I'll preface it by saying that World of Warcraft is the best video game I've ever played in my life, and I've played it on and off for the whole 17 years, I think, that it's been out. And again, thank you to Blizzard for greatest game of my lifetime. Prior to World of Warcraft, I grew up on Nintendo and Super Nintendo and got into RPGs early with the Final Fantasy series. And then when we got to computers, I played the Baldur's Gate and Icewind Dale series, and I really enjoyed both of those sets of games. When I got into World of Warcraft, the game had been out for about a year. I didn't play when it initially came out because I stubbornly thought it was stupid to play a game where you had to pay $15 a month. Then I had a friend that started playing it and told me how amazing it was. And then I watched the intro movie for World of Warcraft. And as soon as I saw that movie with the dwarf up on the side of the mountain there, I was absolutely sold. And so I started playing the game, and I remember being at the entry screen where you make your first character and looking at it, and I looked at all the characters, and I decided I was going to play a warrior because I played that in previous games and liked it. That's kind of a basic choice. And I wanted to play the Tauren warrior, but I didn't know anything about the game, and I didn't know anything about online games. So when I started and I looked at the Horde, I thought that was the evil faction. So I ended up rolling a human, and I got into this really nice guild who showed me how to use the auction house and showed me how to do a couple things and were just super nice to me. And I told them, about me starting the game, just starting to play. They asked me a bunch of questions, and that's when I said, I'd wanted to start the Tauren, but I didn't want to start to play a game on the, quote, evil side because I didn't know any better. That's when they explained to me that the guys were great about it. They said, go roll a Tauren. You'll enjoy it so much because that's what you wanted to play, and they're not the evil side. There's good alliance characters and bad alliance characters, and the same for the horde. So go roll your Tauren warrior. So I went and rolled my Tauren warrior, and that was my first 60. His name was Zerl, and he was on the Veclanosh server. And I had a guild there called Children of War. And he took me about 4 months to go from level 1 to level 60. Again, I'd never played an online game before, but I had an immense amount of fun. In vanilla, I certainly wasn't what anybody would call hardcore. I think I only got into 2 raids, but I did a lot of questing and I did a ton of PvP. I loved being an arms warrior and charging in and hamstringing and smashing my opponents. It was just a great deal of fun for me. When BC came out, I decided they released new servers, and one of the servers they released was called Nordrasil, and I decided to make a new character on there and try the Alliance side because I wanted to do all those quests now that we had a new expansion, and so I rolled a Dwarven Retribution Paladin. So first character, Tauren Arms Warrior, and then in BC I rolled a Dwarven Retribution Paladin, and in BC, again, I did all the quests because I'm a big quester. And then I did some dungeons. I didn't do any raids, didn't really do much PvP in BC because I just really enjoyed all the dungeons. You know, BC dungeons, like I said, were great. Then Wrath came out, and like everybody else, I rolled a Death Knight. I did a Night Elf because I wanted to have Shadow Meld. And after doing a ton of content, I will say that, you know, Wrath was so amazing in the way they did Death Knights because any spec could DPS or tank in any of the 3 specs. It was just amazingly well put together as characters. And so I spent the entirety of Wrath doing something I'd never done before. I spent that whole expansion after I did the initial storyline quest just in PvP. And my favorite thing to do was to stealth in the flag room of my faction, and anybody that came into the flag room, I'd pop out of stealth on my Night Elf and death grip them over and just smash them. And I love to defend in Warsong Gulch, and Death Knights were super overpowered in Wrath of the Lich King, so I had an immense amount of fun. I did that for an entire expansion, just PvPing and having a great time. Then we got into Cataclysm. Don't even get me started. But essentially, in Cataclysm, as everyone knows, they took the best video game of all time and said, everyone's bored with it. Let's completely smash it and change it. This is the worst idea ever. And so I ended up rolling a Hunter and just playing very casually. And after a couple months of Cataclysm, I just took the rest of the time off for the whole expansions. I thought it was pretty awful. Then Mist of Pandaria came out. I also didn't like Mist of Pandaria. I thought it was just a Kung Fu Panda ripoff. I thought it was way too cartoony and just silly, and I didn't enjoy it either. Then Warlords of Draenor came out. And in Warlords of Draenor, I spent all my time doing quests and in my garrison and had an immense amount of fun with that. For anyone that remembers, Warlords of Draenor was the last expansion where survival was a range spec for hunters, and they had the coolest skill combinations ever. Back then, guys, they had an explosive arrow talent, like a fire arrow, where every time your arrows would hit it, it would explode and hit the other mobs around it, and then you could barrage and just shoot hundreds of arrows that all exploded in fire. It was the greatest, most ridiculous thing ever. It was so fun. I remember pulling just gigantic packs of mobs into Grand, and I had the best time. Then we're going to get on to Legion. My gosh, what an amazing expansion. I was sad that they dropped Warlords of Draenor. I thought they should have kept the garrisons as part of the game. I don't think it would have been that much effort for them to upgrade it and still be some use to you in Legion. But I understand that they moved a different direction. Legion was amazing for me in a lot of ways. The first way that Legion was just incredible was the artifact weapons, of course, that you had a weapon that you could power up through the entire expansion that had a great story to it, that gave you incredible class identity and an extra ability just for your spec. It was just fantastic. On top of that, they also gave, it was the best mix of players I've ever seen in the game. And what I mean by a mix was because of the way that you got legendary items, they could drop from anything, and they dropped at a much higher rate from any kind of group content, like even looking for raid. What you'd have is you'd have players that had completely basically finished the game, doing heroic and mythic content, going back and doing dailies still, and still going back and doing looking for raid and dungeons and everything, just trying to get all of the legendaries for all of their specs for their class. So you had this great mix of players like me that were super casual with people that were really experienced all the time. And I remember seeing constantly the whole expansion. There's just people everywhere. And it was because of what they did with the content. And the other thing that made Legion so incredible, it was the last expansion where you could macro everything together. And for those of us that have been playing a long time, that's an incredible advantage. I remember on my Hunter, I could press my kill command button, and it also would do Bestial Wrath, Aspect of the Wild, both of my cooldowns. It would send my pet and start attacking all at the same time with the press of one button macroed together. It was so unbelievably easy and fun, and you didn't have this crazy button bloat that we've had in so many other expansions. So that was, a good fit together for how I played, and that was also the first expansion that I ever played more than one main character, because I usually just concentrate on one, and that's kind of the digital me. That's the only character I really play. And so I had my Beast Mastery Hunter, but figuring out that I could macro things together, I also made a Tank Warrior, because I was able to macro in a lot of my defensives so that I never missed using them whenever I had the Rage, which was fantastic for me. And then I tanked all the way through all the types of heroic content, and I had a great time in Legion. I thought it was unbelievably well done from both a story and a play control perspective. I got extremely angry with Blizzard when Battle for Azeroth came out, because they took away the macroing of all these abilities, and where I had to use 6 to 8 buttons before, now it was 10 to 12 just to be able to get the same result, and I was unbelievably annoyed. So although there was really cool things when it came to how they did the story between Anduin and Sylvanas, and all the things with the Heart of Azeroth, and all that kind of cool story content, and great both music and visual content, I wasn't into it because of what they did with play control. And Shadowlands, they fixed some of the macro and play control things. They put some of those back into the game, where anybody could, macro things together to an extent again. So a play control, it's been a bit of a loss since Legion, I'll definitely say, for the game. But the game overall, from a story perspective, from kind of putting your characters, the heart of everything together, is just fantastic. And I'm so glad that I've played it over the years. I am going to make a part 2 to this series. And it's going to be me going through both some Battle for Azeroth content that I thought was cool, and all the Shadowlands content. And so, Shadowlands has some really great things that you can put together as far as the 4 covenants and kind of the highlight reels from those, and they really make your character the center of the story. So I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. I had a really good time making it, and when the next one comes, I hope you guys will like and subscribe so you can see that as well when it comes out. Thank you for spending this time with me. This has been Matt from Proudmoore. I'll see you in the next one.